Always place labels on the back of a comic book bag and not the front. Fold tape over to prevent tape pulls, such as that if you want to read the comic book, take the tape and pull it down over the cover and then push it back up so that you can pull it out of the comic book bag without creating a tape pull. Lift the flap and prepare to open the comic book on the other side. Do not turn the comic book upside down and put it through the bag. Reach inside the bag with your finger and your thumb to pull out the comic book. For older comic books, carefully pull the book out of the bag. To do this, pinch a corner section of the bag at the bottom while pulling up. If you're an avid reader of older comic books, you'll want to do this to ensure and protect your books so that they are not damaged over the long run. It's a pretty simple process to practice this so that it's possible to save your comics without ripping them, tearing them, creating tape pulls, or any further damage than they are. Some books are older and they need protecting, and if you mishandle them, it could lead to ruining the book. This is the result of turning a comic book upside down and forcing the book out to read it. You should never do this. Once the book is out, let the board slide back into the bag. How you read a comic book is just as important as keeping it in shape. Place it on a flat level surface if possible, and use your fingers to carefully read the book on the flat surface. If you can, avoid pulling the covers out into the air. Read the book very carefully as possible, especially around a serious collector, because the collector has some isms about you handling the book in the first place, especially if it's old. If damage results, you could pay a hefty fine or end up in jail due to the fact that you mishandled the book, and the collector will be very angry at you. When you're done reading, put the comic book carefully back into the bag as you got it. Carefully slide the book back into the bag the way that you found it. It's a simple matter of doing it very carefully and then putting the flap back over. You may opt to double board your comic books to prevent bending. Some comics and comic book magazines have creases along the spine. You may want to upgrade or replace these later, as they will eventually tear the cover away from the book and the book will become utterly worthless. By examining a comic book magazine very carefully, you can tell whether it has creases, damage, or looks bad, or is not applicable for purchase. Some markings will be found, and you can tell how good the grade is from there. Never throw comics, and avoid dropping them if at all possible. Remember, comic books are for safekeeping and can be handed down for generations. So keep them in the best shape. Avoid reading your books more than one time. This will keep the damage rate low so that every time you open the cover, it will stay fresh. Older books, as the one here, will have creases on the side, which indicates that the book has been read. Some damage is unavoidable over the years, though, with some comics. This is normal wear and tear. Preserve older books, especially if such books are expensive or are hard to find. Never stack your books like this. An indentation will develop on the spine if you stack your books like that in the previous example. Stack your books like this, but never too high. Newer books have more of a gloss look to and feel to them. Be careful of these newer books, as they are easy to rip as more than the other books that you have in your collection. Kids and comics go hand in hand. However, some children do not handle comic books correctly, and therefore could damage the property that you have, and the result can be devastating to an expensive comic book that you paid a lot of money for. Be careful around children who can damage your books that are worth a lot of money. And as a final note, don't let stupid people handle your comic books. If you've got a comic book that costs you a lot of money and is very valuable, you don't want that person reading your books, or otherwise you'll find it's going to be ruined. Comic books have been around for a long time, and as such should be enjoyed, the characters and the books themselves. They're for all ages. But remember, be careful with the comics and take care of them.